Hi guys. The chapter we're doing today is chapter 8, motivation, and I know that Colleen is also doing this chapter, but I'm gonna give a shorter little synopsis because I know that you guys probably don't want to hear it twice. Okay, so starting off, I actually really liked the quote from the beginning of the book. It says, "Wisdom is choosing a greater happiness over a lesser one," which I think is really important only because I feel like, for example, some people might choose a job that pays more but they're less happy with just because they get paid more. And I think that being able to recognize your happiness over like a monetary value definitely makes you wiser. So from the very beginning, it talks about how this chapter is going to be about desire. And I think that I had mentioned before in one of our sessions that desire is something that you really can't teach, that it kind of, either you kind of have it or you don't. And I think that people can acquire desire over time, but it definitely takes a lot of work compared to people that are already predisposed with desire and like the motivation to do things. So the book also talks about, one of the first sections is liking and wanting. And so I think it's important to figure out the distinction between the two, liking something and wanting something. The book gives the example of going over to dinner at a friend's house and eating so much that you're stuffed, but the mom giving you another dessert and you take a taste and say, "I really like it, but I don't want it." So the first, it's not really a question, but just a little thought bubble to get you guys started. Just start thinking about what are some things that you desire, and think about some things that you like but maybe not want, or want but don't like. You don't have to answer that question in the discussion, but if you want to, that'd be awesome. But a question that I do have for you guys is, would our likes and wants be the same if we weren't involved in social media or if we didn't see other people? Do you think that maybe we wouldn't like or want as many things? So that one I do want you to answer in the discussion because I'm kind of interested to see what you think. So another thing I wanted to talk about, the next thing I wanted to talk about is anticipated rewards and how they're frequently disappointing, because I think that if you are expecting to get something every single time, it over time becomes less valuable. So for example, I know that Bridget will attest to this, but Messiah's women's soccer team pretty much wins the MAC championship every single year because they just are so much better than everyone else. And not that winning isn't great, but after you win every single year, I feel like to me would get a little boring because like you don't have any competition to play against. So I think that after a while, winning all the time is a little disappointing and less valuable. Next thing the book talks about is auto wanting, and how if you are going through life and you find that you're not really in a really stressful situation and you feel like you don't really have anything to worry about, or anything like that, the book says, see if you can notice a kind of auto wanting in the back of your mind, an ongoing scanning for something new to want even when you're already satisfied. And I think that that is really true, because I think it's just human nature to want to be in a competition all the time, or to want to be better than other people, or to constantly strive for something, which I think is a good thing in some instances. But I think that sometimes people take things way too seriously, as far as wanting it to always be a competition between like each other. And I have to say, I do think that my brain does that. Like if I don't have anything stressful going on, like I'm either wanting something else, as far as like, I have more free time to like look at shoes that I want, or I want to hang out with my friends more now that I have more time. Like, so I'm always wanting something more, even if I don't really have anything to do. So the book also mentions having this wanting all the time and how it can be detrimental to your body and relationships. So the next question that I have you ever wanted something so badly that you feel the wear and tear on your body, or even lost a relationship over a want that you were striving to get? So I want you guys to answer that one in the discussion, and just to give a little synopsis about what you wanted and how it affected your body and your relationships, that kind of thing. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was how in the book it gives a analogy to a dog, and your wants being kind of like a dog and it pulling you on a leash in the wrong directions. And so I thought this was kind of interesting, just because when we used to talk about in meditation, your mind being like a puppy and you have to like train your puppy, and nicely bring it back into focus when you feel your mind wandering. So I really like this analogy because I think we can all relate to it, because it says you when you find yourself wanting that and you feel this dog pulling you in this direction, that you need to take a step back and really analyze the want and take a deep breath and label that want. Like, is it really something that I really 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 need, or is it something that really doesn't matter that much? So next, the book talks about, in the healthy passion section, your sympathetic nervous system versus your parasympathetic nervous system. And as we know, for exercise science students, that our sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight response. So in the book, it gives two equations saying your sympathetic nervous system plus positive emotion equals a healthy passion, and then your sympathetic nervous system plus a negative emotion equals an unhealthy stress. And so what I took away from that is just to always be positive, because then you always have a healthy passion. But if you ever feel negative emotion towards something, like if you are being forced to do something that you don't want, then obviously like it's going to cause stress. But if you feel grateful about it, then I think that it's going to be it's going to be a passion because you enjoy doing it. So this isn't a question, this is just something for more you guys to think about on your own. But the book talks about being motivated enough to do something, to change something in your life. So if you really want to start exercising more and cut out more carbs, are you going to be motivated enough to say, okay, I'm going to exercise more? Or it says talking about cutting out your sweets. So do you have motivation enough and the drive to want to change, that you're going to throw out all the sweets and candy in your cabinet? So I think that for me, if I am kind of just like going through the motions, then like I don't really have the want to change. Like if I know that I need to stop eating more, then I'm kind of like, like I don't really care about it that much to really make a change. But if it's something more serious, like I feel like if it's a more pressing matter, then I can make a change. But sometimes it's hard for me to make a change and to be motivated to make a change if I feel like it's not a pressing matter, and if I'm kind of a procrastinator, so if it's more of like a last moment thing, then I'll be more willing to make a change. And the book also talks about finding enjoyment in the things that you're doing, and trying to find good things about what you're doing. So it talks about, like, I'll just make an example. So like if you really hate going to the gym and working out and like lifting, thinking about how good you're going to feel after and how much stronger you're going to be after you go to the gym is something positive to look at. So that's what I try to think about, is just trying to find enjoyment or a positive aspect of what we're doing to try to make it go by easier and try to find more motivation. So the book also talks about dopamine receptors, and how some people are just genetically have more dopamine receptors, which means that if you have fewer dopamine receptors, then you need more rewards to stay motivated. So meaning you do like a small thing, you're going to need to get a reward for that, or else you won't be motivated to continue. So some people are more genetically predisposed to have more dopamine receptors, which means that they can just go and work really hard and not really need any rewards, which I'm definitely not one of those people, that's for sure. So the other thing that I thought was really interesting about this chapter was the guidance and criticism chart, because I really liked it. Kind of was like, optimistic and pessimistic kind of thing. So I'll just read through the chart. The guidance and criticism. So I'll read guidance first and then criticism. So guidance is what is the goal. Criticism is what isn't the goal. Guidance is what's right, and then criticism is what's wrong. And then it's kind tone, harsh tone, compassionate, dismissive, builds up, tears down. And so the example that he used for that was his climbing guide, and how other guides were really encouraging when he made a mistake. They pointed out that he made a mistake, but they weren't tearing him down. And another guide was just more like pointing out mistakes, wasn't really being positive, was just kind of pulling him along, and he felt more self-conscious rather than confident in his abilities to continue and carry on. So going off of that, which is where this was going in the book, was that people feel like if they aren't hard on themselves, that they're going to goof off and they're not going to be able to to get anything done, which I feel like that happens for me sometimes. I feel like if I'm not strict with myself and don't make rules for myself, that I'm not going to get anything done. So the question that I have for you guys is, do you feel like you have a low or high amount of dopamine receptors, and why? And do you feel like you are hard on yourself, or do you feel like you're more guidance or more criticism? So just to finish up, a couple of things I wanted to say, and a couple other questions, which you don't really have to answer, but if, like you said, if you want to answer them in discussion, then go ahead. But I have, how can you apply this chapter to your meditation/life? And then lastly, what motivates you to get things done, whether that would be homework or go to the gym or, eat healthier. But like I said, you don't have to answer those questions, but they are just things that I think we should all think about. And that's really all I have.